Cognitive dissonance theory refers to a situation involving conflicting attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors. This produces a feeling of mental discomfort leading to an alteration in one of the attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors to reduce the discomfort and to restore balance. It is essentially when a person holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values, or participates in an action that goes against one of these three, and experiences psychological stress because of these things. For example, if someone is smoking cigarettes knowing that they can cause cancer, but they continue to do it anyway, this causes a mental state of cognitive dissonance because the act of smoking and knowing that it causes cancer, it contradicts itself. This theory is completely an interpersonal form of communication rather than interpersonal. This means that the communication is within one's own mind rather than between two or more individuals. The communication occurs when one is doing something and their subconscious realizes the negative drawbacks from the actions or if the actions contradict their own belief system. There have been hundreds, if not thousands, of experiments that have examined cognitive dissonance theory since the theory's inception. But the first experiment was published in 1959 by Festinger and Carl Smith. The experiment is interesting viewed within the psychological historical context because it involved a direct test of a mentalistic theory versus a behaviorist theory. Cognitive dissonance theory was based on abstract internal and mental concepts, which were of course unliked by the behaviorists. Festinger and Carl Smith set up an experiment which would allow for a direct test of cognitive dissonance theory versus a behavioral reinforcement theory. Half of these subjects were paid $1 and the other half were paid $20 to do a boring task and tell someone it was exciting. The theory assumes that the subjects being paid $1 would like the task the most compared to those with $20. These subjects would have the most dissonance because they were being told to do something incredibly boring and then lie and say it was exciting for just $1 rather than $20. The theory proved to be right, and the subject paying $1 liked the task more than those being paid $20. The entire theory was derived out of a participant observation study of a cult which believed that the earth was going to be destroyed by a flood. And these members that thought that the earth was going to be destroyed even gave up their homes, their jobs, and did all of these things just for the cult. But the flood did not happen. While these members were more inclined to recognize that they had made fools of themselves and to put it down to experience, committed members were more likely to reinterpret the evidence to show that they were right all along and that the earth was not destroyed because of the faithfulness of the cult rather than the earth was not destroyed because of lack of actual evidence. Curry says the tension that gets created when you hold certain beliefs or values but act in a way that conflicts with your belief system generates an internal discomfort. But this should not be called cognitive dissonance. James F. Wells says the theory of cognitive dissonance is subjected to scientific criteria for theory and found wanting. Measurement of dissonance is questioned. Predictability is wanting. Its occurrence outside the lab is anecdotal and it cannot be refuted because anything is interpreted as reducing psychic tension. In science, it is normative and considered appropriate to use specific words to define specific concepts. A primary issue with CDT, the cognitive dissonance theory, concerns the ambiguous term dissonance. In his original publication, Festinger, the publication in 1957, used the term dissonance to refer to three different entities: theory itself, the triggering situation, and the generated state. This single terminology is still commonly used today and leads to imprecisions in studies, said by Martini and McGrath in 2017, and Montesinos in 2018. Common sense suggests to consider using three different terms to define these entities. For clarity, Vedas and Brand in 2018 suggested calling the trigger inconsistency to evoke the arousal of cognitive dissonance state and the theory itself, cognitive dissonance theory. One theoretical tradition I saw on this theory is the socio-psychological tradition. This tradition is about cause and effect relationships created and is theorized as expression, interaction, and influence. Within the cognitive dissonance theory, it is focused on the interaction between one's actions and their own belief system or ideological viewpoints. This interaction creates a cause-effect relationship because the action contradicts the belief system, which is the cause, creating a sense of dissonance because of this contradiction, which is the effect.